Let me take, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to a pre-conference conversation on reparatory justice. And this is part of the conversations that we're having on the road to the main Africans in Diaspora conference that's taking place at the end of October. This meeting is of historical magnitude. The issue of reparation comes a very long way in history. In more recent times, it was publicized in the writings of Ta-Nehisi Coates, and very recently, I think this year in April 2021, the U.S. Congress voted to have a process undertaken by its Committee on Reparation to have an in-depth study on the issue of reparation. So it is now firmly on the political agenda in the US, as well as in the UK, where there have been ongoing conversations on what form reparations would take. So the discussion that we're having today is very important for that purpose, and also for reasons to do with the fact that the issue of reparation is about human dignity, it is about justice, it is about right, it is about a completeness of human journey. It is part of being human. How do we become human after a century, centuries of slavery, centuries of imperialism, and many decades of colonialism in Africa? I'm going to call upon Dr. Michael McCrean, who is going to give us an introduction, an in-depth introduction to the theme that we're discussing today. Dr. McCrean is co-founder of the European Network of People of African Descent. He's also a board member of Black Lives Matter, the Swedish chapter. He also is a visiting research fellow at Raoul Wallenberg Institute of Human Rights, which is based in Sweden. Over to you, Dr. McCrean. Is Dr. Michael McCrean?
Yes. Thank you, Professor Kyobo, and yes, thanks a lot for that, those welcoming words. Greetings, everyone, and warm welcome to this pre-conference conversation on reparatory justice in preparation for the Africa and African Diaspora Conference a month from now, from Saturday 23rd until Friday the 29th of October next month. This conversation is to set the stage for a wider conversation about reparatory justice at next month's Africa and African Diaspora Conference. With us here today, we have four very illustrious speakers, co-convener of the conference, Reverend Dr. Angelique Walker-Smith, who will soon say a few words about the conference, Ambassador David Comisong of Barbados, Dr. Ron Daniels from the US, Miss Yeda Leal from Brazil, I hope I pronounced that right, and Miss Glenda Wilshot from South Africa. Before briefly introducing today's speakers, I would like to thank Dr. Hilary Brown of CARICOM Secretariat for helping us make sure that we have a strong CARICOM representative for today's conversation. And I would also like to acknowledge that several of the members of CARICOM's Reparations Commission are among our attendees here today. And so I would like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Nyambi Hall Campbell, member of the committee in the Bahamas, Mr. Earl Bosquet of St. Lucia, Mr. Eric Phillips of Guyana, Ambassador Ali Gill of Grenada. So yes, first, Doctor, let me introduce to you, and most of you will already know of Ambassador David Comisong of Barbados, Ambassador of Barbados to CARICOM. And Ambassador Comisong is, among other things, the founding member of the Caribbean Pan-African Network, CPAN, which works closely with the diaspora unit of the African Union. He used to head Barbados Office of Pan-African Affairs. He participated and played a key role in the Durban Conference in South Africa in 2001, which this year is celebrating its 20th anniversary, and was a groundbreaking conference that also laid the ground for the establishment of the CARICOM Reparations Commission. He's a long time advocate for reparatory justice. He's also a member of the Barbados Task Force on reparations. Dr. Ron Daniels, who is a founder of the National African American Reparations Commission in the US, was an independent candidate for president of the United States in 1992. He served as the executive director of the National Rainbow Coalition in 1987. He served as the first African-American executive director of the Center for Constitutional Rights between 1993 and 2005. He's a prolific essayist and commentator, has a column called The Vantage Point, which appears in numerous Black and progressive newspapers and websites nationwide in the US. And besides founding the National African American Reparations Commission, he's also the founder and president of the Institute of the Black World 21st Century, and has played a key role in promoting reparatory justice and putting it on the political agenda in the US. Very glad that the two of you could make it today. With us here today also, we have from Brazil, Ms. Yeda Leal, who graduated in pedagogy with a specialist in technical teaching methods from the Universidad Salgado de Oliveira in Brazil. She's an activist of the Black movement and the trade union movement, currently the Secretary for Combating Racism at CNTE, Secretary of Communication of CUTGO, Council of the State Council of Education of GUAS. And among other things, the coordinator of the Black Leila Gonzalez Reference Center and the current national coordinator of the legendary Movimento Negro Unificado in Brazil, perhaps the most, or if not among the most prominent Afro-Brazilian organizations. And she currently lives in the city of Goiânia, if I pronounce that right, in Brazil. Last but not least, here with us today, we have Ms. Glenda Wilshot, who was the Director Transformation in the Office of the Vice Chancellor at the University of Cape Town until her retirement. She used to be a commissioner in the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission. She has since assisted several other commissions in various countries developing their reparations policies, including Rwanda, Sierra Leone, and Togo. Glenda has also served on the Commission for International Affairs of the World Council of Churches, and in this capacity participated in developing the accompaniment program for Palestine and Israel. So as you all can see, we have a list of very illustrious speakers with us here today. Before, let me now hand over the word to Reverend Dr. Angelique Smith Walker to say a few words about the conference next month. Angelique, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Dr. McIrene. It's always a joy to work with you, and to all excellencies and VIPs, distinguished panelists and guests, and to all who have taken the time to address this very timely moment of reparations. Also, in theological terms, reparatory justice. What does it mean to engage reparatory justice? I especially want to thank the international team of the Africans and Diaspora Manchester Conference Committee, of which several are a member, including our own Dr. McIrene, who is moderating now. Of course, to Reverend Frank Chikani from South Africa, the host committee of Wits University. We are so grateful for everyone coming together in this very timely moment to which all of us embrace for change. In fact, embrace for transformation. We are at a pivotal moment in history. And as our voices are heard, may we pray for transformation for all of God's children. I am mindful that as a minister, that in scripture, we have clear illustrations of reparatory justice. In my mind, I think about the prophet Nehemiah and what was done there with the government to reinvest in the community that had been destroyed. So there are several examples we could cite, but I invite you to pursue that in your own time, but just to highlight that because AAD has roots in faith, and that is with the World Council of Churches and many other faith groups throughout the world who are coming together in this moment for this movement of Africans and diaspora, who were actually established a few years ago at the governing body of the World Council of Churches, the Central Committee, of which I'm honored to serve, where we came together, people of African descent and of Africa, and said, this is our moment. This is a Kairos moment. It is a Sankofa moment for us to envision a renewed way forward, not only in the ecumenical agenda, but in the public societies throughout the world. And God has blessed us to bring us this far. Next year will be the World Assembly in Karlsruhe, Germany. And we are pleased to inform you that we will be a part of that assembly. We're also looking to create a space in Berlin where the Scramble for Africa took place in the late 1800s to commemorate the history, this colonial history that has worked against so many of us relative to the progression of our agenda. And so, as Dr. McIrene has said, this is the renewed beginning, if you will, of a way forward, not only to the assembly, but after the assembly, relative to deeper engagement, not only with multilateral organizations, but also bilateral organizations and faith groups and public policy makers going forward. So this is a very important moment for us. That all being said, let me just outline the importance of the upcoming conference that is immediately in our view. And that will take place on October the 23rd through the 29th. On that week, we will have the theme will be on from Manchester 1945 to a Pan-African Renaissance. Many of us know that history, that very important history of leadership of the Pan-African Congresses that began at the earlier parts of the last century. And of course, 1945 was pivotal. We believe there are many lessons learned to revisit that ushered in the whole season around independence on the continent. Of course, the Caribbean was there. Of course, Latin America was there. And yes, the US was there and Europe was there. So it really was an amazing moment of coming together to envision what would the next years look like. So this conference is based in history. We're not dismissing history. Rather, history is informing. Again, Sankofa, in this moment, past, present, and future. What does it look like for us to come together to continue to empower a future of God's people? In the conference, in the concept note that
não está saindo para mim a tradução do português. Desculpa, só queria avisar, por favor, a intérprete de português.
I'm sorry, is there to be simultaneous translation? Should I wait or no?
You can go ahead, Reverend Angelique.
Okay, thank you. Because if there's not, I'll allow to pause. In any case, the Pan-African conferences, again, from 1900 to 1945 is kind of our ground zero, kind of that baseline of where it is we'll be going for the conference. During the time together, we will have bilateral as well as multilateral organizations represented. We are so honored to have some of those guests with us in this moment to ground this conversation for the conference that will be coming up. The themes that are related to the overall theme have these sub messages as well that we will be looking at. The first one we want to identify is Pan-Africanism with all, for all. We will be engaging and including women, youth, elderly, various regional expressions, minorities, and indigenous persons. So an all-inclusive agenda will be a focal point of the conference coming up. Decolonizing knowledge. We know that our story has not been told the way it needs to be told, that there has to be correctives and new opportunities for telling our story. So there will be a rubric on decolonizing knowledge. What does that look like in this moment? All of us have been aware and engaged, I'm sure, in the Black Lives Matters, not only in the United States or in North America, but globally. This is a global movement. There will be a special session dealing with Black Lives Matter globally. And then, of course, bridging bridges between Africa and in the diaspora. What does it mean? What does that look like now, particularly with the new permanent forum of people of African descent, where billions of people of African descent are now coming more aligned, even more so with the continent of Africa, an exciting development that just happened in recent days. And then towards a democratic and equitable international order. What does it mean to live in a new order, an economic order? This is where the conversational reparations really comes to light. And we're very excited that we will have this grounded moment to think about that as we go to the conference. And then there will be a separate time together to think about reparatory justice, life and debt in Africa and in the diaspora. And then, of course, we all know about the importance of climate change and also climate justice. Climate justice meaning that the people's voice, the human rights voice, has to be at the center as we think about the urgency of climate change, and particularly as we think about people of African descent and of Africa. And of course, the freedom of migration, border controls, and hospitality. I'm sure many of us are thinking about Haiti in this moment and what happened in the United States that was such a horrific moment of remembering how our Haitian brothers and sisters have not been fully included into moments of human dignity and human rights, to which I'm sure all of us are deeply concerned. And then, of course, Pan-Africanism and spirituality. And of course, that's key for us at AAD Manchester. So these are some of the main points that we'll be discussing. There'll be more persons like that are here now that will be with us at that time. We're looking forward to you joining us. We will put emails in the chat from the host committee of how you can link with the conference. If you have not, it will be complimentary. There is not a fee associated. So if you would like to join us online for 3 hours per day on the 23rd until the 29th, please put your information in the chat and we will give access information as well. So thank you so much. We're so honored to have everyone here. And thank you, Dr. McElrain, for being our moderator today. And again, to Reverend Chikani, my colleague and my partner in this work. God bless.
Thank you, Angelique, for that magnificent introduction to the conference. Yes, so let me just say a few words about today's topic before I let the panelists say a few words about reparatory justice from their regional perspectives. And so let us all be very clear that reparatory justice for Africans and people of African descent across the world for the histories and lasting consequences of colonialism, enslavement, native genocide, and systemic racism is a leading cause of our times. It is a global movement that goes to the heart of both social and global justice. It is central to sustainable development to bring about greater equality and equity among as well as within countries, as recognized at least in part by the Sustainable Development Goal number 10. Now, as I mentioned previously, the Durban Declaration and Program of Action is this year commemorating, is this year, is the 20th anniversary this year of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action, which was the outcome document of the Durban conference in South Africa in 2001. And of course, the DDPA, as it is called, is the world's most comprehensive human rights instrument against racism.